Hello, YouTube. This is Mike, and this is the 4 things that heal BPD and NPD abuse channel. And today, I just want to address the question: when you finally separate from your borderline ex or your narcissist ex, does the sadness ever go away? For a lot of people, there's a deep sadness, a deep compassion that you feel. And when you think about them and you think about the pain that they go through, when you think about their lives, you may be still filled with a deep sadness for them. And you will still feel a very strong desire that you wish that you could help them. You may be consciously aware that you can't. You may have come to the conclusion that there's nothing that can be gained in the relationship and that they'll never change. You may have those awarenesses, but you still may have deep sadness when you think about them and you think about the pain that they go through. And you may feel a very strong desire to do something to help them. And the question is, does that sadness ever go away? So if you look in the description of this video, you will see that I have listed the 4 things that I did which completely healed me from my romantic relationship with someone who had untreated, undiagnosed borderline personality disorder. So that's what this channel is about. In some of these videos, I do go into depth psychoanalyzing them and psychoanalyzing us, and I know that that can be helpful and relieving, but that won't fix you either. That won't make that sadness go away. The point of this channel and all of the musings that I do is only for one reason, and that is to get you to do the 4 things, if you choose to, so that you can be completely healed. So the sadness that you feel, when you still feel this deep sadness for them, when you still have this very strong desire that you wish that there was something you could do to relieve them of their pain, that is a sign that you're not healed. Great, you're no longer in contact with them. That's awesome. You're no longer in the relationship with them. That's awesome. You are aware that it can never work, that this person will only hurt you. That's great. But the sadness, the pain, you still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about them. You still, let me give you an example. This is a very common experience, and even though this person is definitely moving in the right direction, based on my experience and my definition of healing, this person has not achieved a healing yet. So if you are the person who left this, or if you relate to it, please know that this is not in any way meant to criticize you. It's meant to point out to you that there's still the good news is there's still some healing available that you can experience. But you got to do the 4 things to get it. So this person says, I'm not going to read the whole quote here. This person says, I wish the sadness would go away, though. There's a big thing about how far they've come and the strides that they've made and the challenges that they go through. But the real truth is in this one sentence right here. I wish the sadness would go away, though. When you see someone who is clearly mentally disturbed and destructive, but has great qualities, is a very sad thing to me. So I don't know this person, but I am almost 100% certain that this person has not worked the 12 steps. And that is because the line, I wish the sadness would go away, when you see someone who is clearly mentally disturbed and destructive but has great qualities, is a very sad thing. This is a projection. So this is, let me once again go over my definition of codependence. Codependence is when your worth as a human being is based on what you do, not who you are. That is codependent. To the extent that your value comes from what you do, not who you are, that is the extent to which you are codependent. So, what is happening here in this, I wish the sadness would go away though. This isn't the sadness of a lost relationship. This is the sadness that is brought up when this person sees somebody who is in pain and they aren't able to fix them. The sadness comes from their inability to fix or heal or stop the pain of somebody else. Ironically, they're in continuous pain, but their pain in their mind is focused on how to heal somebody else. And they're sad because they can't. That is codependent, because it means they are in a state of sadness because of their inability to do something for somebody else, which means that their worth, their self-worth, is coming from what they do for others. If this person were able to magically heal the mental, the mental disturbedness, and if they were able to help this person realize, as they say, their great qualities, that in their mind, they believe that would relieve them of their sadness. So do you see what that is? That's not, I'm wanting the best for you. It's, I need to be validated by being able to be the one who can bring this out in you and make you feel good. That means that their sadness is not coming from a truly unconditional love. It is coming from a desire to meet their own needs to feel validated and worthwhile. It also is a projection, because the sadness that they are feeling is really on an unconscious level, beneath their level of conscious awareness. The sadness really says that nobody is bringing out in me my best qualities. Nobody is coming to me, reaching deep inside of me, and showing me that I am valuable simply because I exist and because I have these great potentials. It saddens me that nobody will reach out to me and love me on that level. So this is a transference. So in psychological terms, transference usually means the feelings that you have towards your parents, you transfer onto other people. It's a projection, meaning that it's a pain inside of you that you're unable to see clearly, and so you see it in other people. You honestly believe that what you want more than anything is to heal that other person and help them take advantage of the great qualities inside of them. When what it really means is that you don't feel that you're able to live to your highest qualities and be seen and appreciated for who you are. And so this is, in my experience, one of the limitations of therapy. This is why the four things, when you look at the description, you will see the four things are: first, number one, you go complete no contact, meaning you make it impossible for them to contact you. Not that you don't call them today. No, you make it impossible for them to ever contact you again. That's going no contact. Number two, You work all 12 steps of Codependence Anonymous, or whatever 12-step group works best for you. You work those 12 steps with a sponsor. When you work those 12 steps, you will not have this dynamic. You won't have the dynamic where you say in one hand, I'm healed, I'm no longer in the relationship, but it's still sad, and it saddens me when I think about them not meeting their their potential and how sad they are. It makes me sad. That will go away. That is a sign you have not worked the 12 steps. Thing number 3 is to work with a therapist when you can afford it, but it is not mandatory. And thing number 4 is to do daily meditation. Things number 3 and number 4 are not mandatory. When I say do the 4 things and heal, what I'm really saying is these first 2 are mandatory, going no contact and working the 12 steps. If you do that, I can guarantee that eventually you will heal. If you work with a therapist, your healing will be speeded up. But therapy, in my experience, has limitations. And I'm talking to you as somebody who, I have a therapist. I go to group therapy. I recommend both of those. And I work the 12 steps. And of course, I'm no contact. But I'm here to tell you that working with a therapist alone, there are limitations. Working with a therapist, in my experience, it can help with some of the symptoms. It can help you with some of the big things. It might help you go no contact, and it might help you become aware that they are incapable of giving you what you want. It can definitely help you lift the lid on your unconscious, so you'll see some of the psychological reasons that drew you to those people. You'll definitely become aware of childhood issues, but it never really solves those deep unconscious attachments. At best, it can help you look in and identify them, but it doesn't give you the power to change them. In my experience, the only thing that does is the 12 steps, specifically the 4th step. 4th step is really where you find out what your attachment is, and you find out how to let go of it. But in my experience, the intellectual awareness of all of these things, which is one of the things that psychology does not give you the ability to completely heal. Let me bring out another possibility, another comment here, which I think might be relevant. Here's somebody else. This is somebody else who claims to be healed. In the first comment, I could tell something wasn't right. I didn't have all the information, but I could tell something wasn't right. I responded in that vein, and they had to come back and say, no, let me clarify. So this is a very codependent thing. By the way, I know that if you are codependent, there's going to be a strong desire for you to want to say you're healed because you want to look good. And if I come to you and I say you're not healed, instead of your first response is not going to be, oh, I'd like to know how to heal. Your first response is going to be, I'm not unhealed. I am healed. And you're going to want to show the world how good you are by how healed you are. So that's also a codependent thing. And when people want to jump in here and tell me how they've healed, I can usually find out pretty quickly whether or not they've done the 4 things to do it. So in this case, I'm pretty certain that this person has not done thing number 2. And the reason why I know that is because they talk a lot about therapy, but they also still have a focus and a preoccupation with the other person and what they're doing. And I'll show that to you. So person who wrote this, again, this isn't anything personal. You can choose to look at it, and if I'm right, that you haven't done all 4 things, then There's a reason why I knew that. So, because it takes one to know one. And so when I say I'm completely healed from that relationship, I am. Zero pain, zero sadness, zero regret, no attachment, meaning I don't have an attachment to whether she is or is not in therapy. I don't wonder where she is, what she's doing, if she's with somebody else. I don't think about any of those things. When I do think about her, I have compassion for her, but I'm not overwhelmed with pain or guilt or sadness or, any of those things. I don't have this intense desire that I hope she gets her life together. I don't care. Doesn't mean that I don't care in a sociopathic way. I care about her the same way I care about anybody else in society. I want everybody to be happy and find happiness, and I want that for her. And if there was anything I could do to give it to her, I would. But if she's not, I won't lose any sleep over it either, because it's none of my business. It means I really have healed completely from that relationship. Now, when you heal from the relationship by working the 12 steps with a sponsor, what won't happen is you won't be completely healed from the childhood dynamic that created the codependence in that other person. That doesn't go away. But what does happen is you get a separation between the two. So I can always tell when somebody hasn't made that. And this person hasn't made that. So again, don't take this personally, but this channel is the 4 things that heal BPD and NPD abuse. This isn't a channel just about getting through abuse from narcissistic partners. And yeah, I've done some of that, and we've done some of this. I'm only here for one thing. I'm here to give you the complete healing package. You can take it or not, but I can tell when you haven't done it. This person hasn't done it. So this person says, sorry, I didn't explain myself well. I already have 2 kids with her, went through hell and back. Now I have my therapist and am finally healed. All right, so this person is telling me, because if you had worked the steps, that would be the first thing you would say. Because the people who have, when you look on the video, on the comments here, the people who have worked the steps, you can tell because they say, Mike is absolutely right. I worked the 12 steps and it has completely healed me of. So when you find something really wonderful, you talk about it. So if you haven't talked about it, it means you didn't do it. And if you're talking about thing number 3, which, as I said, is not mandatory and in and of itself will not bring complete healing, then I know you're not. And this person is going to go on and show it. Again, I don't mean this to make you feel bad, but since you commented, and the purpose of this channel is the 4 things, I'm going to use this as an object lesson. So you say, I already have 2 kids with her, went through hell and back. Now I have my therapist and am finally healed. We're going to find out that's not true. Everything is catching up to her. So he goes from saying he's healed and then goes right into the obsession with what's happening with her and puts a negative spin on it. Look at all the bad things that's happening to them. This is a sign you're not healed. Everything is catching up to her, he says. There's a lot of evidence that points against her. In other words, you see, it wasn't my fault. She victimized me. Here's the proof. He goes on to say, I can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, I appreciate that. That's an honest statement. It means you're not out of the woods yet. You're still in pain, but you can see, you have hope that you will get out of it, but you're not there yet. Luckily, I have support from my family. That's a good thing. One of my siblings is a therapist. Well, that's right there. We've got some boundary issues right there, because your sibling can't be your therapist, and because a therapist must be emotionally detached and must not have an emotional agenda. So the reason why therapists are not allowed to have personal relationships is because when you have a personal relationship, you have an agenda. And when you have an agenda, you can't be objective. A therapist must be willing to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. if this is your, and the therapist at the same time must not have an agenda that you hear the truth and follow it. Their job is to give you the truth without any filters and to not have an agenda one way or another. And the way that you offset, the relationship, the give and take, is you pay them money for their time. If somebody is your sibling and they're a therapist, they can't be your therapist. But it doesn't mean that they can't be a helpful friend in your life. But they're not gonna be able to actually heal you, because they have an agenda. They're your family member. They want your love and approval and acceptance, and they might tell you the truth to the best of their ability, but the whole dynamic is different. In any case, though, that is good, a good support to have somebody like that in your family. One of my siblings is a therapist, he says, and then he says, but at the end of the day, you must heal and find out why you chose this person and kept tolerating it. That is true. Except I can tell you're not 100% there yet. How do I know that? Because you say, everything is catching up to her. There's a lot of evidence that points against her. It means you're still obsessed with her, and you're still wanting to identify as a victim, and you want everybody to know that, see, it's not my fault. She victimized me. You say, one must find out why you chose this person and kept tolerating it. That is one of the things that will happen in therapy, but it won't fix it. So this person has an awareness, a conscious intellectual awareness, that they did in fact seek this destructive dynamic out, and they kept tolerating it, but they don't have the truly deep understanding, because if they did, they wouldn't be still talking about the other person and what they did or didn't do. At the end of the day, you must heal, find out why you chose this person and kept tolerating it. And then goes on to say, once that happens, you will accept that they are only there to suck you dry, and good luck getting them into therapy. That sentence was starting to go into a good direction. Once that happens, you will accept, that's going good. And then we go into the judgment, the demonizing, and it still means that they're full of rage, they're full of anger, and it means they still unconsciously wish that they could be with them. Because the rage of not getting the love from the person that you love will create a victim mentality. And so you have to say, they're only there to suck you dry. And then he says, and good luck getting them into therapy. So that means that he still has an obsession, wishing he could get her into therapy. He still wants to be with her. Still wants to be with her. I'm not judging, that's just a fact. And my point of all this is to point out, you haven't done thing number 2. I can tell you haven't worked the steps. When you work the steps thoroughly, and it may take a while, it may take years to thoroughly work the steps on the relationship. But when you've worked the steps on them, there's no need to demonize them, to judge them. We all know it's already there. Borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. They're abusive, but they're very sick. And that's just a fact of, when you get bit by a shark, you don't spend the rest of your life demonizing that shark that doesn't care about you, that only wants to bite you and eat you. Well, that's what sharks do. That's the nature of sharks. Borderlines and narcissists, they do what they do. And when you truly accept that, you stop demonizing them. So I'm not saying this so that people will pretend that they don't have any, I think people should be aware. But if you still have those feelings, like you need to point them out, identify their mistakes, identify their problems, demonize them, if you feel the need that it's important that you prove to me and other people how healed you are, what a good person you are, because now I'm healed, these are all signs that you're not healed. When you are healed, you are, and you know it. And you also don't have any need to prove that to anybody. And you're no longer thinking about them, what's wrong with them. Either on the one hand, I wish I could fix them. They have so much potential. It makes me so sad. Or the flip side of that, because those are two sides of the same coin. The other side of that, which is the rage of knowing that this person will never love you back, and the self-directed rage of allowing yourself to be abused and knowing that you didn't have any control, which is what's in here as well. When this person says, I'm healed, but everything's catching up to her, you know, anyway, so that's it. The point of this channel, again, is about doing the 4 things. Number 1, going complete no contact. Number 2, working all 12 steps of whatever 12-step group works for you. I recommend Codependence Anonymous. And working all 12 steps with a sponsor and then sponsoring somebody else. Those are the first 2 things. And then number 3, which is working with a therapist if and when you can afford it. And number 4, doing some meditation. Now, thing 4 is actually the 11th step, so we can really get rid of that. Thing 3 is optional, and only if you can afford it. But what is not optional in my experience and in the model that I'm sharing with you is things number 1 and things number 2. And if you don't do them, in my experience, you will not completely heal. And I'm going to know. I'll give you an example of somebody who I think might be healed. I don't know, but I'm willing to accept it. This person says, Mike, I finally healed. I have no more use for this channel. That's actually something that I said in some of my videos, is that my greatest goal is that you actually do the 4 things. You stop watching the channel. You do the 4 things. And then when you've healed, you no longer have to watch my channel anymore. I'm probably the only YouTube channel that says that. I want you to actually listen to what I say, do what I suggest, and you never have to watch this channel again. I got into it, I think the last time I came on here, I got into an interchange with somebody who sounded like they were brand new to the channel and just were deeply in denial. And when I talked about their comment, they revealed that they'd been watching my channel for a long time, and I was just repeating myself. And I was like, oh my God, this is what came to my mind. This person is still continuing to watch my channel over and over and over again, needs to hear me talk about all of the ins and outs of the borderline mentality and codependence, refuses to do what I suggest, and yet still needs to come on and argue with me. And then I realized, oh, you know, that's what happens when you don't do it. So eventually, if you get to where you actually do what I suggest, I've said, you know, what will make me happy is if you unsubscribe and never watch my channel again, because you won't need to. So if you need to keep coming back and watching this channel and other channels having to do with this, it means that there's something missing in what you're doing. So this person says, I've finally healed. I have no more use for this channel. I'm going to unsubscribe to this channel now. The 4 things saved my life. That means that they've done thing 1 and thing 2. And then most importantly, step 4, not the 4 things, but the 4th step, which is the inventory. Most importantly, step 4 would be the most impactful key. I completely agree. It made me realize early on during the idealization phase, I consciously continued to go forward, even though I knew about the red flags. On an unconscious level, I was trying to get mom to love me, and the borderline was the vehicle. I couldn't have said it better myself. This was selfish of me to demand love from someone who was sick. That's a sign you've done the 4th step. When you don't just say, I need to uncover why I chose this, but you know what? It's really coming to light how screwed up they are. You do a 4th step, you don't say anything about the other person. You go, it was really selfish of me to try and demand love from somebody who was sick and incapable of doing so. That's when you can say that and mean it without any shame or without any reservation. It means that you have actually seen. And this is what therapy will never give you. Therapy will never give you that understanding. And it will never give you the power to fully detach. This was selfish of me to demand love, they go on to say, from someone who is sick. The moment I did step 4, I had a complete switch of, wow, this had nothing to do with me and I had nothing to do with her. We bounded on wounds. It was easily the most painful experience of my life, and by God's grace I survived and I'm still here. Now I can start to love myself and take loving actions for me. I have no further questions about what happened or who they are. So if you're still needing to ask the question, but when they do this, but I've learned this about them, this is why you won't need to watch my channel. Because when I go into the depths of who they are and why they do it, I'm only doing it for one reason. Number one, to show you the futility of it so that you become aware I'm not going to get what I want. And to become aware of how painful that is. And then you will go and do the 4 things. Most importantly, thing 1 and thing 2. That's the only reason I'm here, is to get you to do thing 1 and thing 2. If you don't do that and you go straight to thing 3, which is therapy, you're going to be where this other person was. I'm healed now and I've got my therapist and I have to take a look at myself and know why I did this. But you know, it's really coming to light how screwed up she is. And you know, all she's here to do is just take from me, and she's never going to get therapy. This is somebody who's still in pain and still in denial. This person, on the other hand, isn't talking about the other person. In fact, they even say, I can start to love myself and take loving actions for me. I have no further questions about what happened or who they are. The answer to all those questions are, quote, they have a mental illness. It's funny, I can look back to your channel in February and remember the tremendous pain and anxiety I had. The 4 things really do change the neural pathways in your brain. And then it goes on to thank me for the channel. So, that's what I'm here to give you. When I say healing from the relationship, I mean it, complete healing. It means you don't ever look back. I mean, not because you're in denial, because you just don't need to. You don't ever look back, and you don't worry about the things you didn't understand. This person says, I have no further questions about what happened or who they are. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but if I were to say that, it could mean I don't completely understand what's going on in her head, but it doesn't matter. Because I no longer have an attachment to them. It's like saying, I don't know what it's like to be a shark and, you know, needing to bite people's, you know, ankles off. But I don't need to. I'm just no longer attached to why sharks do what they do anymore. They're sharks. I don't understand them. They're destructive. That's it. Nothing more to say. Not, I have to take a look at myself and know why I did this and why I kept chasing after them. And you know what? They're just out to hurt me anyway. And right? You demonize them because you still want them. That's what that means. This person doesn't want them. This person now, after having done the 4th step, this person now has a real opportunity to never fall into that bear trap again. Whereas the other person, who's still, the 2 people I described, the one who still feels sad because they can't get their self-worth by fixing the broken person, which is about them wishing somebody else would come and fix their brokenness. Or the person who says, I'm healed and I'm looking at why I'm doing this, but I really realize how screwed up and horrible she is. These people there's a real potential that they will unconsciously pick these same kinds of relationships again. This person who's worked the 4th step has a real possibility of, you know, its possibility is still there, but it's much less likely that this person will have the need to go seek out somebody like that ever again. So that's the message of this channel. Do the 4 things and completely heal. If you don't do the 4 things, I'm going to know it. And you're not going to get the healing I'm talking about. And it's real simple. The 12 steps are free. If you go to coda.org, coda.org, the meetings are free. You can do them online. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do them by Zoom. You can get a sponsor by Zoom, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And when you do them, you'll have this kind of awareness. You'll really know, oh my God, I was just going after a need in me that could never be fulfilled. It had nothing to do with the other person. And I've fixed that within me. Now, this person will have to go on with their life, and the issues in childhood that actually created those issues won't go away. They'll still have to continue to work on those. But this person will be much less likely to unconsciously take those childhood issues and transfer them onto somebody else. It's going to be a lot harder for that dynamic to happen. Not impossible, but it's going to be a lot harder. So that's it. Do the 4 things and heal. They're in the description if you want to know exactly what they are. If you want to skimp on them, you're free to do that. And in my experience, you're still going to be in pain, even if you are able to extricate yourself from the relationship, and even if you're able to have some awareness that you're the one that's chasing after them, you'll never truly heal it. Don't listen to anybody, especially anybody who pretends to be or claims to be a mental health professional. Never listen to anybody who badmouths the 12 steps. Any professional or any counselor who badmouths the 12 steps is an extremely destructive person, and a truly a good therapist will actually help you do that and say, yes, here's some pamphlets, Codependence Anonymous. They will be more than happy to direct you, because they know that going to 12-step groups will actually help them do their job better for you. So steer clear of any mental health professional who especially publicly and proudly badmouths the 12 steps. That is the sign of a very destructive mental health professional. Stay away from them. That's it for me. Maybe I'll be back in a month or so when I have nothing better to do. I wish you guys all the best. Do the 4 things and heal, or don't and don't. It's up to you. Thanks.